known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Welcome. WagerTalk Today, Tuesday, July 27th. I'm your host, Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez, who's doing part 2 of his Aquatic Olympics today on Tuesday. And then we've got Rob Veno, who's filling in for me, filling in for Teddy Covers. And because I had no internet yesterday, Rob, Marco D'Angelo filled in for me, filling in for Teddy Covers. So we're keeping this as complicated as possible this week on WagerTalk Today. But we do have a great show here with two of the better handicappers around. We've got Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. And by the way, he is the $2 capper at SportsMemo.com. And then the $2 capper at WagerTalk.com, Bryan Leonard. You saw him yesterday. You wanted more of him, so we got him once again. Bryan Leonard breaking down a couple baseball games later in the show. Also believe there's a Dave Sharapan sighting, last I was told. But Rob, before we get to the guest, let me throw it to you. Olympics in full bloom. Major League Baseball less than a week away from the trade deadline, something we've talked a lot about on numerous shows the past few weeks. Rob Veno, what did you learn last night on Monday in the world of sports?
Yeah, real quick, Steve, now that you mentioned it, let me just start by saying that the men's Olympic basketball team catching a lot of heat at the current time for their performance, but the women need to wake up as well. That was not a very impressive outing overnight. I happened to 12:40 Eastern time that tipped off, and I happened to stay up to watch it, and they were less than impressive in a 9-point victory where they were 29-point favorites. So it's not just the men's Olympic basketball team that's struggling right now for the U.S. Let's hope they can both pick it up a little bit. Let's start with the obvious, Steve. That's probably been repeated on this show a zillion times. The bullpens continue to be gas cans. And the home plate umpires continue to be as erratic as can be. So many calls last night that turn outs into runs for teams in certain games. So that stuff remains the same. And so does the Seattle Mariners March, right? I mean, they just continue to prove the dwindling segment of faders, so to speak, Mariner faders, that they're for real, that they're MLB's 2021 miracle team. Now, I'm in that list. Believe me, I had Houston last night. Except that I had Houston first 5. And I'm getting some congratulatory DMs and stuff after a 6-run top of the first, and they barely survived that first 5 bet. Wound up 8-6, I think, after 5 innings, and then the Mariners come all the way back. But right now, listen, if you blindly played the Mariners every single game, you're plus $2,523 with a $100 risk on every game. That's really, really good. It's the number 1 profitable team in Major League Baseball. I'm looking ahead to today, Steve, with what we learned last night, and that's the Phillies and the Nationals bullpens are likely to be really fatigued here. In that game last night, the Phillies' big 3, if you want to call them that, Alvarado, Archie Bradley, and Hector Neris, all threw 28 pitches. That's a big number for a relief pitcher in a game. So be careful of the Phillies bullpen tonight, as you should of the Nationals bullpen. Daniel Hudson worked his 3rd consecutive day, 59 pitches overall. Brad Hand, back-to-back days worth of work and back-to-back blown saves out of the closer there. Kyle Finnegan, Austin Voth, both should be fatigued here. Finnegan, back-to-back days, 43 pitches. Austin Voth, it would be his 3rd in 4 days, back-to-back in 3rd in 4 days, 56 pitches there. So careful of those bullpens. I couldn't blame anybody if they want to play over once again in that contest. The Angels' fortunes last night took a little bit of a turn for the worse. Jared Walsh had to leave the game. So now you're dealing with Shohei Ohtani, and really that's it for big bats in that lineup. So the Angels' offense may be something to go against here. The Mets, Francisco Lindor, they learned that they're not going to get him back to mid to late August, so the Phillies-Mets race is on. And the Nationals, Steve Merrill, your own Steve Nationals, officially yesterday, I think to the public, admitted that they're willing to quit on the season, right? When I heard Trey Turner is not going to be extended, and they have taken calls on Trey Turner. Max Scherzer also waived his 10-5. He can use it to get to a place of destination that he likes. But boy, oh boy, it looks to me like the Nats have said the heck with 2021. We thought they should have done it a while ago, but I think they officially did it yesterday when they took that stance with Trey Turner.
Yeah, Rob, I'm with you. In fact, you and I messaged on Saturday the Nationals scratch Scherzer after you, me, and Joe Ranieri did our SiriusXM Channel 204 show at noon Eastern every Saturday. A couple hours after that, Scherzer was scratched for the Saturday night start, and I messaged both you and Joe. I said, look, this is the giveaway for me now that they're definitely sellers. If they're, resting their star trade bait, they don't want to get them injured probably or have something happen. And they went out and got smoked by the Orioles, got swept by a bad Orioles team on the road over the weekend. Only a $1.10 underdog last night. Lost that game 6-5, but as you know, your Philadelphia Phillies, Rob Veno, were down 4-0 in that game going into the bottom of the sixth. So just shows you never know. And by the way, a couple other teams on our list, the Minnesota Twins, obviously huge sellers. They've already started doing so. They come back. They win 6-5 last night as well, exactly a 6-5 game in which they had a 5-2 lead after six. And then the Chicago Cubs, another team that won exactly 6-5 last night, who's also probably the biggest likely seller in the National League. Cubs got 2 runs in the first inning. They came out strong. So, it just shows you never know. These are teams we've circled. And by the way, the Twins had like 3 total runs over the weekend. They looked like their offense had just quit, and they come out and play okay. So we'll keep an eye on those teams. Once again, the trade deadline is Saturday the 31st, the end of this week. So we'll get a little choppy here the next few days. Quickly, I'm with you on the basketball and the Olympics. A lot of upsets yesterday. Osaki, the torchbearer for Japan, number 2 ranked woman in the Olympics, is out. She got upset as almost a 1-6 favorite last night as well. I was watching that live and the women's basketball. I've actually found myself watching a little bit more Olympics than I planned. And the men play tonight at 12:40 a.m. Eastern, 40-point favorite over Iran. So, this is a team they can smoke. They should smoke. It'll be interesting to me to see if they come out and win by 50 or 60. But this U.S. team, what a difficult spot against France. Booker, Holiday, and Middleton all basically on an all-night flight right after the NBA Finals to play with no exposure to that team. The women's team also lost 2 preliminary games, just like the men's did in Las Vegas. So these women and men's teams are not powerhouses compared to the rest of the world like they were 10, 15 years ago. Something to keep an eye on. Like you said, they only won by 9 last night as a 29-point favorite over Nigeria. U.S. plays Iran tonight as a 40-point favorite. Enough Olympics, so let's talk a little bit more baseball. Hey, we're going to talk a college football future as well, which is right up Rob Veno's alley, as we bring in Matt Josephs from $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. Once again, get Matt's top play tonight for just $2 at sportsmemo.com. Matt Josephs, welcome to the show. How have you been doing? Have you been watching the Olympics? I know you're a big water polo fan.
I do love water polo. It's actually on the screen right now. Granted, it's already happened yesterday. I was watching the women last night. I couldn't stay up because they just weren't good enough for me. And the men clearly need Carmelo Anthony. He's Captain America, and I don't know why they didn't bring him. But Carmelo Anthony plays for you. You win gold medals. So clearly he needs to be playing.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that because I think isn't Durant closing in on the all-time scoring lead for the U.S. men's team? And I believe Carmelo is the guy that's at the top of that list. And, if you look at that U.S. team, it's not exactly a top 1 first-team NBA All-Star team this year. There's a lot of guys that would struggle to make an NBA All-Star team even. And that's part of the problem. You look at France, they've had 7 guys with NBA experience, 5 of which still in the NBA as we speak. So maybe that wasn't, such a huge upset in hindsight. Hey, Matt, let's start here with some baseball. I believe you are the prop master. I always say Andy Lang's the prop master at WagerTalk.com, but you are the prop master at sportsmemo.com. You look at over-under strikeout props. We're going to get to one of those in a moment. But I consider first 5 innings kind of a semi-prop. What's a first 5-inning play that you like tonight?
So I'm a guy who's a little bit more cautious when it comes to handicapping. So I like to look at occasionally the plus half a run when it comes to the first 5. And I think tonight the Orioles, the price for the first 5 plus half is a very good price. This is a Marlins team that the lineup is just not very good. Granted, Anderson has returned for them, but it's really Marte, Duvall, and Anderson. And Rojas is occasionally good. But it's a lineup that I don't think should be favored as much as they are. Alcantara coming off the bereavement list. We're not sure who passed away, unfortunately, in his family, but he flew overseas to go be with them and has not pitched in 10 days. So who knows where his mindset is. And Spencer Watkins hasn't been bad for the Orioles. He's given up 1 earned run in each of his 3 starts so far this season. You look at the Orioles, they've been tied or winning after 5 innings in 8 of their last 10. The Marlins have been losing in 9 of their last 11 games since the All-Star break, either losing or tied. So I think there's some great value here. For the more adventurous, you could take the Orioles money line here, but I like to be a little bit more cautious, and I'll take the plus half run with the Orioles in the first 5 innings at home against the Marlins.
Matt, good morning. Good afternoon, buddy, because you're in the Eastern time zone. And hey, congratulations last night, that 3-run homer by McCutchen. I know that must have set a Roman candle off underneath your hindquarters when that happened. So good for the Phillies, because you know what? A win last night, Matt, I was almost ready to say, down 4.5 games, which is what it looked like. In fact, it's funny, the Phillies post-game broadcast actually had all their notes ready for a Philly loss, and then McCutchen hits the 3-run bomb. But at 4.5, it would have looked a little bleaker than it does at 3.5 now. The sun rises here in Philadelphia today, and WIP and the Fan, the two radio stations here, are pretty happy. Let me take a real quick long-term approach with Baltimore with you outside of the game that you're playing tonight. But they have been, our own Sports Memo's own John Ryan had a pretty nice tweet this morning indicating that Baltimore's been the most profitable team coming out of the break so far. Long term with the Orioles, a team that we should be looking at as an underdog through August and September to potentially make some money, or just a current phase that they're going through?
I think it's a current phase. I think it's a team that I'm not worried as much about somebody from their everyday lineup getting traded. I think a lot of the guys in their lineup are going to be staying. So it's not like the Pirates where you could be worried that somebody's going to go and then your bet, changes a little bit. I think this is still a first 5-inning team. Their offense is good enough. Their back end of their bullpen is not the best. It's towards the bottom when it comes to bullpen ERA. And they've got some decent starting pitching. John Means, as he continues to work his way back from the IL, is not a bad pitcher. So I think it's a team in certain situations, especially tonight against the Marlins team that I don't think is very good, and they're an underdog at home. That's why I'm looking at them in the first 5 innings. Take the better starting pitcher, take a good lineup, take the bullpen out of it, and that's why you look 5 innings.
Once again, Matt Joseph likes Orioles plus a half in the first 5 innings, basically the run line equivalent of a first 5-inning play when you start taking the half, and that's the way to look at it. Matt, I mentioned you're the prop master at sportsmemo.com. Once again, you do have a $2 Tuesday best bet tonight for Tuesday at Sports Memo. But one of the reasons props do so well for you is I know you've been killing it this year with the strikeout props in baseball, and that's kind of your bread and butter. Give me one that you like tonight, and also just give me a general overview of, I guess, how you approach these strikeout props on a daily basis.
Yeah, 19-7-1 run on the strikeout props, and one of the ones that I love tonight is the under for Matt Moore. It's 4.5 strikeouts. I got it -130. The key for the K-prop market is have a bunch of books so you can shop around, because there's some 3.5s out there. There's 4.5s with extreme juice. There's 4.5s with normal juice. So make sure that you shop around and have a bunch of different options. But Matt Moore at 4.5 seems like a pretty nice number here, especially on the under. The Nationals have the 20th K rate in the league against left-handed pitchers, the 29th K rate since the All-Star break, and 20th on the road. Matt Moore's only gone over this number once against the Marlins when he had 9 strikeouts. 10 straight pitchers against the Nationals have gone under this number. It's a lineup that just doesn't strike out as much, and Matt Moore may only go 4 or 5 innings. He starts to lose steam towards the middle of that game. So if you can get a 4.5 and under at a reasonably priced juice, and as I said, this market moves. The key for me when it comes to strikeout props is don't be afraid to take unders. I don't love playing the top end of the K-prop market, the Otanis and things like that. I saw a lot of people on Otani's over yesterday. Otani is one of the most wildly inconsistent pitchers when you look at his strikeout numbers. Yeah, he does a lot of flash. He throws 100 miles per hour. But he's one of these guys that'll have a couple of the strikeout games where it's 8, 9, 10, but then there'll be some 3, 4s, and 5s. So a lot of people were on his over because he's really good. And plus the Rockies as a team have not struck out as much on the road. So I like to look at that middle part of the K-prop market. Whereas a lot of people will say, hey, I like this high-end guy. I'll say, well, his opposition might actually be the better one. In this case, Matt Moore, 4.5 seems like a really good number here. I think he could get like 3 or 4 strikeouts, and that'll go under this number.
Yeah, again, Matt, let's take a broader approach here, because you covered that K-prop as well as can be covered, and I don't really have a debate to that. So let's just look at the game real quick here. In the what we learned last night's segment, I pointed out that both of these bullpens could be exhausted. Let's not call them exhausted, but let's say there's fatigue down in the pen for both sides. I listed off the numbers for each with the knowledge that Matt Moore has only gone over 5 innings one time in his last 7 starts, and with the knowledge that Eric Fetty is not necessarily a guy who gets deep into games, and you got bad bullpens. We've seen this total increase from 9.5 to 10.5 here. We know Citizens Bank ballpark plays to the hitter, and Any caution in going over 10.5 runs here for the total? Agree with the line move or disagree with the line move a little bit?
I don't. I mean, we know that Citizens Bank Park can be a smallish ballpark, and we know that these offenses can be good. The way I'm going to actually attack this game, and if I wasn't watching as much Olympics, I would have done it yesterday. I'm going to try and do what I did a couple of days ago in the Yankees-Phillies series, is try and get a run line on both teams. If the Phillies get up early, I'm going to look to a Nationals run line, maybe a 1.5 or a 2.5. Let's say the Phillies get a 3-0 lead early. I'm going to buy the Nationals at plus 2.5 because I know that these bullpens are so bad. And let's say the Nationals seesaw ahead, and then I can get like a Phillies plus 1.5. So tonight, there's going to be a great live betting opportunity for you to potentially get both teams on the run line and somehow win both bets if it's a close game. So that's something I'm going to kind of look for because, as you said, these bullpens are really bad.
By the way, looking at the weather, thinking the wind maybe is blowing out when the total moves a point. 0 miles an hour right now, Rob and Matt. And the ballpark, 0 mile an hour. I'm not sure how that's possible, to be honest. I thought there'd have to be a half a mile. Isn't the earth stopped if there's no wind? Anyway, that's a Prez question. I'll ask Prez tomorrow. He'll probably have a pretty good answer for that one. Matt, once again, is the $2 capper at sportsmemo.com. He has a strong MLB best bet. You just heard how he analyzes MLB on 2 games he likes. There's a game he loves tonight, and that's his $2 best bet for MLB Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. Matt Joseph, the $2 capper tonight. Matt, before we let you go, I want to transition over real quick to college football. Both you and Rob, great college football handicappers. Myself, I'm pretty good as well, I like to think. Rob's already started doing some college football preview videos. We've talked some here on the shows the last couple of weeks. I know you're an ACC guy. You're an ACC country in the East Coast like I am, Matt. Give me an ACC win total that you like this year in college football.
Yeah, any day now, my ACC win total preview article, I'm writing for Athlon Sports, and I'm doing every FBS team in the nation and giving an opinion on every win total. So this week will be the ACC, which will come out hopefully shortly. But I like the under for Georgia Tech. It's 5 wins. And one of the reasons why is if you look at the group of 5 games that they have, they play at Clemson, they play North Carolina in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they play at Miami, they play at Notre Dame, and they host Georgia. Well, that's 5 losses right there of a 12-game schedule. Granted, they're going to win those first 2 against Northern Illinois and Kennesaw State. And then you look at the toss-up games, Pittsburgh at home, at Duke, at Virginia, Virginia Tech at home, Boston College at home. That's 3 home games. If they win those 3 home games and lose the road games, that's only 5. It's a push. I don't think they're going to win all those 5 home games. I don't think Georgia Tech's got a great home field advantage. I don't love their offense. Sims was so inconsistent last year for this team. Their defense lost a lot of talent from last year. I think Georgia Tech under 5 is a good way to go. And once again, make sure to shop around because there's some 4.5s, unfortunately. There's some different juices out there. So make sure to find the best price that you can by finding the best sports book. But I think Georgia Tech under 5 is the way to go. I'm just not a fan of Jeff Collins and this Yellow Jackets team this year.
All right, so let's look at it this way, Matt, real quick here. Second year in Jeff Collins' system, second year learning the offense. We know that this team in the COVID year last year was freshman laden, including Sims at quarterback. Winning games outright, you're betting against them. How about games week by week with the point spread? Do you feel, last year this is a 5-5 ATS team. Do you feel like they're more competitive on the field, that they could be worth weekly looks as a bunch of the games you just mentioned are going to be underdog? Are they more of a live underdog? Week to week, would you take a different approach with Georgia Tech than you're taking on the future board? Because they're 2 entirely different handicaps. They're 2 entirely different types of bets.
I mean, I think against teams that they're clearly better than, I don't know how much of a guy, like, I don't think I want to lay double digits with this team. Like the week 1 game against Northern Illinois, I may look at the Huskies, depending upon the reports that I read on how Rocky Lombardi looks for Northern Illinois, because this is a Northern Illinois team that has some talent there, and getting a Michigan State transfer quarterback will legitimize their offense a little bit. But as a double digit underdog, maybe the home game against North Carolina, maybe against, see, it's tough because a lot of those big games that they're going to be big time underdogs, it's a road game, and I don't think their offense is going to keep up at Notre Dame. I don't think their offense is going to keep up at Miami. Maybe you're looking at an over here. Maybe this is an over team that's going to give up about 40-ish points to some of those teams, contribute like 14-21 themselves, and you see a bunch of like 41-17 games, which depending upon what the total will be, would be an over team. So maybe more overs than betting on them, because I just got a lot of question marks about their offense, and certainly their defense is not as good as it was.
Matt Joseph's SportsMemo.com. Hey, Matt, $2 Tuesday, big baseball best bet tonight. Before we let you go, what else you got going on?
Well, as I said, I'm writing a bunch of articles on college football win totals, going to start getting ready to sell those. And, of course, NFL props. It's never too early to start finding those teams that you like. So we're doing a lot of research, getting ready for football season. And, of course, plugging along with the baseball season, seeing the K-props really well right now.
Matt, great seeing you as always. Once again, a $2 Tuesday at SportsMemo.com. He is the prop master. You saw a strikeout prop. He gave you a free first five. You saw his college football over-unders. But if you want his strongest play tonight, $2 Tuesday, MLB best bet for Matt Joseph, SportsMemo.com. Matt, great seeing you. We'll catch up again soon, my man. Best of luck tonight. And when we get back from the break, big game breakdown, Rob Veno style.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at what's usually Teddy's big game breakdown, but I've got a point to this one that you guys have probably heard Teddy say often where baseball is concerned. But let's start with the game itself. I'm looking at Arizona at Texas, which could be one of the, worst games on the board, right, as far as team records are concerned. But Friday night, I caught a quote from Texas Rangers manager Chris Woodward after the game where he said he did not like his team's body language. And he went into detail and basically did everything but saying that his team quit. Manager's never going to say his team quit, but he didn't like anything about the way his guys were playing. Well, the team really responded to that, because the next two nights against the Houston Astros, they almost get no hit. They go 2 for 29 from the plate. And then Sunday, they go 5 of 31 from the plate. Those two games combined, offense is 7 of 60, 117 batting average. It's not new for the Texas Rangers during this 12-game losing streak. Every single game they've lost has been by 2 or more runs, which is not competitive. The overall combined score of those 12 games, 80-20. They've lost those games by 60 combined runs. 10 times out of the 12, they've scored 3 runs or less. So this game I'm looking at here is more or less a fade of the Texas Rangers at this point. Now, Arizona, if I just look at the other side real quick, bad record, but different results as of late, 5-2 in their last 7. When they faced a team that's of their same caliber during that stretch, which was the Pittsburgh Pirates, they swept them. So they're certainly capable here on the road against Texas. And they have Taylor Widener going on the hill. He just returned back to the rotation. And the dichotomy between his home starts and his road starts is huge. At home, he's a 7.45 ERA this season. Obviously, the Diamondbacks Park is one of the best offensive parks in baseball because of the background in center field. But on the road, that ERA drops from 7.45 to 1.93. Much better pitcher on the road this season. He's had a small sample size where starts are concerned due to his stint on the IL, but still he's been much better on the road. And Texas has been somewhat of a pitcher's park, the new park here that they've opened. So for me, in typical Teddy Covers style, where baseball is concerned, if there's a streak, you ride the streak. I've heard him say that for years. This streak is Texas' losing streak of 12 games plus. I don't see any reason to try and step in front of that right here. I'd rather get on that train. You have options. Full game, you can take Arizona plus $1.25. First 5, you could take them plus 115. The slight advantage to first 5 here against Dane Dunning of the Texas Rangers tonight, the slight advantage might be, if you bet it now, there's potential for Joakim Soria, the Diamondbacks closer, to get traded. But that's a very small concern at this point in time. I think that you could play him either way. First 5, take a good price. Full game, take a good price. I just want to fade the Texas Rangers right now. Their manager told us they're not playing real well, and he was absolutely right.
Yeah, Rob, I'll tell you what, this is a textbook example of not catching a falling knife that we talk about so often in the financial markets. And by the way, John Ryan and I will be doing our Tuesday financial podcast here right after the show at 1 Eastern on Predictive Playbook. But we also talk about it in the sports market here. And baseball is the best example because they play 162 games. And, the Arizona Diamondbacks were that falling knife for several months. In fact, they went on one point, I think they lost 38 out of 42 games when they were on that monster record 24-game road losing streak, 38 out of 42 losses. They are minus 32 units, by the way. They're the least profitable team in all of baseball this year. But Texas is going to give them a run for their money over the next few weeks, I believe. They're only minus 16 units despite being awful for the past week. So there's a lot of downside still with the Rangers. So we'll see how that plays off, and plays out rather. And I like how you let in say it's probably the worst game on the board. Yet it doesn't mean we can't bet it, right? And, we'll find out. We're going to have Bryan Leonard in a few minutes here. Real quickly, Rob, you had to play the game tonight, USA minus 40 against Iran. You laying it or you taking it?
Wow, Steve, that's yeah, can I play
I'll give
over?
you a secondary question. If you name one player on Iran, I'll let you out. You don't have to give me a prediction.
Yeah, that's even better. I'd be betting Iran blind, right? And that's never a good thing to do. But I think that over, without seeing the total in front of me, if it's in a decent place, I would probably play over. I'd expect the USA, which hasn't played, the rap on them is they're not playing defense right now, right? They built a smallish team to play pace and space. And against Iran, they should be able to score at will, and maybe Iran gets their share done. So I hate to lay 40, Steve. I'd probably look towards over. Let's hope they win by more than 40 because we need to see a little spark out of this team, which actually held a 9-point lead late in that game the other day and then proceeded to miss every shot they took the last 4 minutes. So hopefully things straighten out for the U.S. tonight.
Rob, I'm as patriotic as they come. I got the flags in the background, but I'll be honest, I almost don't even know if I'm rooting for the U.S. basketball anymore. It just kind of irritates me how lackadaisical the whole thing has become. I almost feel like they need to lose at some point, which they have been doing. They've lost 3 times now in the past couple months. But it just, I don't know. I don't feel like this isn't the best team we could put out there, and I almost hate to even see him compete when it's like that. I mean, I know LeBron's aging, but obviously he should be out there still. Durant, I'll give Durant credit. I love that Durant's out there because he's a superstar. But I mean, you name the other top 5 superstars in the NBA, they're not out there. I mean, we don't have Curry, we don't have Anthony Davis. I mean, and obviously it was a difficult season, but it's kind of like watching the USA B team, and I don't even know if I want to root for the B team. It's just kind of a strange situation overall. But these other teams have caught up. The world has caught up to us. And as you said, the women struggled as well. Hey, Bryan Leonard is ready to go, I think. We liked him so much on Monday. We brought him back for Tuesday. We have Bryan. Is he set? Is he waiting in the wings to go? He is the $2 capper at WagerTalk.com. There he is. Bryan Leonard, welcome to the show. $2 Tuesday. And not only is it $2 Tuesday for Bryan, but he has a game of the month, a 5% game of the month. So if you love $2 plays, if you love 5% games of the month, you get them both in one package today. Bryan Leonard, welcome to the show. How's it going for you? Yeah, he's having trouble hearing us, I think, and we'd heard that. So 2 things we can do here. I could just mimic what he's saying. That would be a lot of fun, but I only do that to Tony Finn. When Tony Finn has the audio problems, that's when we're going to start just lip syncing for him. We're going to have Dave Sharp in here in a few minutes. We get Dave, guys, let me know. We'll bring him in first as we fix it with Bryan. I'll tell you, I was going to do a little penalty box at the end of the show. It's just going to be a potpourri of things. So maybe I'll just kind of throw them out now, Rob. I'll get your thoughts on them because I like your feedback on this stuff. We talked about the Rangers and the D-backs. That's something I was going to bring up, current form in baseball. You had a team that nobody wanted to touch with the Diamondbacks, but they have started to kind of turn things around over the last week or so. Who's maybe a play-on team for you over the next month? You mentioned the Orioles earlier with Matt Josephs, and John Ryan, of course, mentioned how profitable they've been. Give me maybe a play-on team for you or another, you gave me a play against. Give me a play-on team here, Rob, maybe over the next few weeks that you're looking at.
I hate to jump on teams that are already real good, Steve, but to me, the White Sox are going to be even better as we go through August and September. Eloy Jimenez just came back. Luis Robert is on the way back. This offense can only get better. They've done so much with an offense that's been injured. Not the entire season, but at critical points of the season, right? Nick Madrigal has been gone for a while now. They have played the entire season without Luis Robert. They played a great portion of the season without Jimenez, or maybe it's the other way around, but both of them have been lost since nearly opening day. So two big right-handed bats that you haven't had. You've had injuries at times to Moncada and others. Tim Anderson seems to be the only real big bat that's been steady in that lineup all the way. So the offense is only going to get better. The White Sox price tags are only going to get higher. So the suggestion here is that you might be able to play White Sox run line as a bet on team. The pitching is still good. The back end is really good in the bullpen with Liam Hendricks. So I think the White Sox, like I said, I hate to jump on a front runner, but I think they're going to be even better coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, and real quickly on the White Sox, we talked about this a few weeks ago. There's really no value playing them to win the division, obviously, because they have a huge lead. I think they're 70-1, 1-70 last I saw at FanDuel. And even the future odds, I think you're going to be better off with a money line parlay in the actual series, the ALDS, the ALCS. Money line parlay them, especially if they're facing the Astros, which is likely, and you're going to get a better play. So I agree. I think the White Sox have a lot of upside, yet that doesn't necessarily mean we want to bet the futures markets. Just keep an eye on them. Maybe moneyline parlay their series when the playoffs begin. I think Bryan Leonard is ready to go. We've got Bryan, the $2 capper at WagerTalk.com. There he is. It went too smooth on Monday, Bryan, so we had to make it more difficult on Tuesday for you, but we're glad you're here. Not only do you have a $2 Tuesday best bet, but you got your 5% game of the month. Let us know about it.
Yeah, I really like this game. I've been really lucky on these 5% plays. I guess you're supposed to win more 5% than you lose, but it's been pretty steady the entire time I've come to Wager Talk over the last 4 or 5 years. So we've been very good on our best bets, and we've been on a nice run on them. So we've got one today we put out last night. We sent it over, and loving this situation even better today than we did yesterday.
Awesome. And normally keep in mind a 5% game of the month would be $35. It's $2 for Tuesday. So it's over a 90% discount for a strong best bet. Bryan Leonard, WagerTalk.com. Not going to give that play away here on the show, but I do want to talk a couple baseball games with you. We got to do my Washington Nationals against Rob Veno's Philadelphia Phillies. Which way are you going in this one, Bryan?
Yeah, this is one of the situations that I'd like to take a look at. People always look at what teams' records are when they're facing lefties, righties. Washington on the season versus lefties only 12-17. But if you make the extra effort and you look at the WRC plus, Washington is fifth in baseball at a 112 versus lefty this season. You take a look at them over the last month, they're at 131. They're raking against lefties. And we're getting them here against Matt Moore. And I caught some of Matt's analysis on his strikeout total, and I agree. I think it's going to be a short day for Matt Moore in this situation, and I like Washington. Washington's a team right now. Eric Petty coming out of Vegas, he's not been great, but he's been serviceable. And that's really all you want in this situation, because I rate him a little bit better than Matt Moore. You take a look at the StatCast numbers, he's rated better than Matt Moore. And, the bullpens are going to come into play, no doubt about it. I don't think either starter goes very long. But I think there's value here. The wrong team's favored in my regard. Washington's playing really good ball right now. You take a look at them over the last times that they played. They haven't played as well lately as they had earlier. But still, this team's still hitting. They've got some guys on that team that can hit. And I think Washington is an underdog. Is a gift in this one.
Yeah, Bryan, first of all, good morning to you. I say good afternoon. I'm 3,000 miles away from you at this point in time. Listen, that game, I went through a breakdown of the bullpens and the situation that they're in tonight. Last night, Philly exhausted their three best, right? 28 pitches each. And the Nationals bullpen, starting with Brad Hand, who's pitched back-to-back and blown 2 saves in a row. Daniel Hudson, 3 nights in a row, you won't see him. And we've seen all the money in this game, really, go toward the total from 9.5 up to 10.5 in this hitter-friendly park. The way you just described it with Fetty and Matt Moore is kind of the way I see it. Neither are going to last deep into the game, and we're going to get some substandard arms. Not that the Phils and Nats have torn it up with bullpens anyway. Do you see any value at this point? A run is gone now, right? It went from 9.5 to 10.5. But can you get a 6-5 game like we got last night out of this? Can people still play the over at this price, or has that train left the station?
I'd play the over before I play the under, but it is tougher when the line moves like that. You're always fighting for the best lines possible. But there's no way I would look at the under in this contest.
Yeah, you mentioned the Nationals essentially too, because they did have that little lull over the weekend. Obviously with Scherzer got scratched, so I don't think it was a coincidence. But before that, they put up 18 and they put up 24 runs 2 games in a row, 18 in one of them. So it will be interesting to see if they can turn the corner now and refocus. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. I really think that was a weekend letdown when they scratched their ace and knew that they were in sell mode officially. Takes a couple days to get over that. We'll see how it plays out. All right, so we had my Washington Nationals, Rob Veno's Philadelphia Phillies. So we have to take a look now at, I was going to say your Cleveland Indians, but is it the Cleveland Guardians? Do we have to call them that yet, or do I get a couple more weeks to be politically incorrect? And got to get your take on that real quick, by the way, because I haven't talked to you since that came out last week, the name change for the Cleveland Indians. But we're looking at the Cardinal-Indian games. You're going to handicap this game, but give me your quick takeaway, Guardians, and what your preferred choice would have been.
Well, I'll still call them the Indians. I still call them Jacobs Field. So I'll probably do that for a few years. But they took votes in Cleveland, and Guardians was number one for a while. So it didn't surprise me at all. Do I like it? No. I've had many people call me up and they're asking me, why Guardians? What does that mean? It's basically they've got a bridge that goes over the flats that ends at the stadium, and they've got these two big sculptures of Guardians, and they call them the Guardians of Traffic. I don't understand it, but I'm not a Clevelander any longer. But it wouldn't matter to me what they choose. I mean, it's still the team I'm going to root for, a team I grew up on. But yeah, I didn't like it, but hell, they don't care about my opinion. As for the baseball game here, I prefer the St. Louis side against Cleveland here. Adam Wainwright's been one of those guys having a really terrific season. He pitched pretty well last year, 3.15 ERA. He's at 3.56 right now. He's been very consistent. You can go back his last 7 starts, his average game score is 60. His ERA is 2.80. Cal Quantrill is one of these guys. He was highly regarded earlier in his career, went to San Diego. That should have been the perfect place for him to pitch. And he really did not pitch well in San Diego. They sent him to Cleveland. He's been better his last